Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, and today we are back with another exciting tutorial. So this tutorial we are going to see about InfluxDB 2.0, Telegraf and Grafana. So you would have seen about Grafana and InfluxDB in my previous tutorial, but this will be an exciting tutorial where we'll use Telegraf, InfluxDB and Grafana all together as a monitoring solution. So what we will be doing is we'll be using Telegraf to send some data from the machines. So Telegraf will act as an agent to sending the data to InfluxDB. So InfluxDB is a database which will use this content to store as a database, and from the InfluxDB we'll have a Grafana. So this is how it will be working. So we'll have a Telegraf to send the data to InfluxDB, and InfluxDB will be connected to Grafana. So from Grafana we'll create the visualization and charts and all those things which like Grafana we have seen in other tutorials. So what we will do this tutorial to start, before to understand what is Telegraf, what is InfluxDB, what is Grafana. If you don't know about that, I just thought I'll just give a brief information on that. So as I mentioned, Telegraf is an agent that is in charge of collecting, the processing, aggregating and sending these metrics of this machine that we want to monitor to various outputs. So InfluxDB is one of the output which will collect this data which sent from Telegraf. It can be other outputs like graphite, Kafka, or any other outputs. So in our case we are going to use InfluxDB 2.0. And InfluxDB, as I mentioned, it's an open source time series database which is written in Go, and the metrics sent from Telegraf will be stored in the InfluxDB. And Grafana is an open source data visualization and monitoring suite. So we have seen how to use Grafana along with Prometheus and other scenarios like InfluxDB, MySQL. So here we are going to have a Telegraf, InfluxDB and Grafana stack. So in Grafana we'll be analyzing this data which is sent. We like querying, and we'll create panels and dashboard using this data. So the step-by-step procedure what we will be doing in this tutorial, like installing Telegraf, InfluxDB, Grafana for setting up the monitoring system. So we'll set up all these three on a CentOs machine, and we will configure Telegraf to send the data to InfluxDB, and the InfluxDB will be configured as a data source in Grafana, and we will make use of the data which is available in the InfluxDB in the Grafana to create dashboards using those metrics. So that will be the overall topic what we will do in this tutorial. So before I get into the actual demo, I would request you, if you have not subscribed to my channel, or if you're new to my channel, click on the subscribe button. Also like my video, share and comment. So I'm going to use a CentOs machine for this installation. So I'm not going to use a Docker or those kind of setup. So I will start with the basic installation on a CentOs. So probably in future videos I will also show how to do the same Telegraf, InfluxDB and Grafana as the Docker containers as well. So I'm going to use the official documentation, so how to install Telegraf, how to install InfluxDB and how to install Grafana. So there are different ways you can do it. You can use some repo installation. You can use directly using the files. You can download the tar files and then you can unzip it, and you can also configure it as a service. A lot of different varieties of installations are there. So you can decide which one you want to go, but in my this tutorial I'm going to use the binary files, like the tar files. We will download it and we will unzip it. So let's get started. So I will start with the InfluxDB first, so that I can have the database ready. Then I will set up the Telegraf, and then I will configure the Telegraf to send the data to InfluxDB. So as I said, I will give the link for all the description in the video description, the documentation for InfluxDB, Telegraf and the Grafana, the documentation, and I will also give all the links, the commands which I'm running in my GitHub, which I will refer that into the GitHub, so you can just follow the step-by-step instruction which I'm running it here. So the first step I will be doing is I want to download the InfluxDB as the tar file. So since the wget is not there, I have to install wget. So let me come back once the installation is completed. Okay, so the installation for duplicate is completed, so let me run the command to download the tar file. So I'm going to download the InfluxDB 2.0.7 and it's Linux AMD 64. That's the file, so let's download that. So once the download is completed, we have to untar it, so I'll be back once the download is completed. Okay, so the download is completed, so you can see there is a file called influxdb.tar.gz. so now we need to unzip it or untar it. So for that you need to run the command and the file. Okay, so let's see what it does. So the untar is completed. Now you can see there is a file called InfluxDB 2.0. so let me go into that. And you can see there are a file called InfluxDB, license and readme, right? So now what I want to do is I want to copy these Influx and InfluxD files into a different location. So I'm going to run a cp command and I'm going to copy both the folder into user local bin. So let me run this command. Okay, and let me go to cd user local bin, and you should be able to see both these folders there. So you can see like both the Influx and InfluxD files are there. So sorry, it's not a folder, it's the file. So I'm going to run InfluxD from here to start the database instance. So let me run it. So you can see it started creating the instance, so I just need to wait, and then we should be able to access the database using the IP address and port 8086, I believe. Yes, port 8086. So you can see, yeah, you can see the port 8086 here. So let me try to access the InfluxDB instance on the web-based portal. So this is the IP address and port 8086. So before accessing that, you need to also open the port for 8086. So let me open a new instance. So I have given a different colors for the terminal. So I need to run the command for opening the ports 8086, and I will also open the port 3000, which is for Grafana in the firewall. So let me run this command 8086, and I will also run for 3000. Okay, let me reload the firewall. So don't worry, all these commands I will give it in my GitHub link and you can just copy it from there. Okay. So let me go back. So if I run the port 8086, now you can see we are inside welcome to InfluxDB 2.0, right? So now we need to configure the get started procedure. So I will just keep this in this stage. I will come back to this screen. So I will go back to the other terminal, okay, and now I will set up the I will set up the Telegraf, okay. Now again I will use the command. I'm going to use the binary file, so I'm going to run this Telegraf version, and I will download it. So let me run it. So I will be back once this file is downloaded so we can extract it. Okay, so the download is completed. So now we can see we have one more folder called Telegraf. So I have to unzip this. So let me unzip the Telegraf. Okay, so I'll be back. So it's completed. So let me go back to Telegraf folder, and you can see the different files here, right? So let me clear out the screen. Now for Telegraf, we need to create a configuration file. So in order to create that, so you can see I think the Telegraf file is inside user cd bin, and you can see this is the Telegraf file which we need to run. So before starting the Telegraf, it needs file for configuration file which we need to create. So let's create that. So in order to create that, we need to call the Telegraf file, and we need to run config command, and we need to export telegraf.conf. So it will create a default telegraf.conf. Okay, so let me run this. So you can see we have a telegraf.conf file, right? So I'm going to open this. So wrongly I opened the Telegraf actual source file. You need to open telegraf.conf. So you can see that the telegraf.conf will give you the configuration file, so it's a huge file. So basically, if I go to vi telegraf.conf and if I search for outputs, you can see. So if I edit the telegraf.conf and I search for need to search for outputs.influxdb. So you can see there is some configuration which we have to do, right? Outputs.influxdb versus URLs, quite some details we need to give. So I'm not going to do it here. So there are other ways to do it as well, because I'll be configuring the InfluxDB, so there we'll have some commands. So if you run that directly, it will make the connection from InfluxDB to Telegraf to InfluxDB. Okay, so that's how I'm going to do it. So now we have the Telegraf conf file. So still now we cannot start the Telegraf because we need to move this file to a different location. So we are going to move Telegraf to /etc is Telegraf. Okay, so first of all, I don't know Telegraf, we don't have the folder, so let's go to cd/etc, and we don't have that folder for Telegraf, so let's create a folder. Okay, now we can go back to the previous location and we can go to Telegraf and user bin, and we should have that folder. So now we can move telegraf.conf to /etc/telegraf. Okay, so that's done from our end. Now we can start the Telegraf. So for that we need to run Telegraf. So let me run Telegraf now, so you can see it's failed because still we have not configured the writing, so because of that it's failing. So let me exit from here. So let's do the connection first. So let's do the configuration in the InfluxDB. So I'm going to go to the InfluxDB web login. So I'm going to click on get started. So I'm going to create a username and password. So I'm going to call this as admin and I'm going to create a password. Okay, and organization, I will call it as the tips for you, and the bucket I'm going to call it as Telegraf. Okay, so let's click on continue, and now you can see we are almost ready. So I will just click on quick start. Okay, so we are inside the InfluxDB. So now what we have to do is I'll go to data Telegraf. Okay, so and I'll click on create configurations. Okay, so what I want to use is I'm going to use system, right? So I'm going to click on system, which I want to monitor, right? It's asking like what do you want to monitor. So Telegraf is a plugin used to data collect the agents, so I want to monitor the system. So it based on what you're selecting, it will give you the configuration file. Okay, so I'm going to name this as Telegraf again. Okay, and click on create, and so now we have this command. Okay, so I'm going to copy this command. So it's giving some command, right? So install Telegraf. So we already did the Telegraf installation. The next step is like configure your API token. So the API token is required to push the data into InfluxDB. So you can run this command, so it will configure it. Then to start Telegraf, you need to run this command. So let's go to the Telegraf instance. So I'm going to run this export command, and I will copy this command now to run the Telegraf. Okay, so let's run it. So sorry, it has to be ./telegraf. So once you run it, let's see what it does. Now we can see it has loaded, right? What we are now monitoring is going to be CPU, disk IO, memory, net, process, swap, system. So these are going to be monitor. Okay, so and it's enabled for this machine. So let me go back. So I'll just click on finish. Now you can see we have Telegraf is added here, right? So if I go here, it will show you the configuration file, right? So now you can see if I go back, see there is a section for output.influxdb2, right? And this is how the configuration should be, like URL, token, right? And the organization, what we are going to monitor, like CPU, disk. So all those details are here. So you can use this configuration file into the telegraf.config, since we already have that, so now we don't have to change it. Okay. Now before we configure the Grafana, you can go to explore in the InfluxDB itself. So you can see now we have a Telegraf bucket, and we have some data coming here. So you can see, if I put this, and you can see some data already coming from Telegraf. So you can see that, already that the data is coming, like CPU. Let me remove this. I will put CPU something, system, CPU total, right? So you can see the CPU usage. So already the graph or data is already visible inside the InfluxDB now. So similarly, now we need to bring this data into the Grafana. So let's set up Grafana. So in order to set up Grafana, I'm going to use the similar like a binary file. Again, there are different ways. You can use normal installation, or you can use Docker for Grafana, which I've showed in my previous tutorial. But this one, I want to do everything with this normal setup. Then I will go to the next Docker setup, Docker Compose, and all those things in the upcoming tutorial. So this is the base, like you need to understand how the data and how the configuration work. Okay, so the Grafana is downloaded. So now you can see we have one more zip file. So let me unzip, untar it. Okay. Let me clear out the screen. So we have Grafana over here. So let me log into Grafana. So we have the Grafana files. So in order to run Grafana, so we have bin file. We have the Grafana server here. So we need to run that. So I'm going to call Grafana server and web. Okay, so I'm going to run this, so it will start the Grafana instance. So now you can see Grafana is started on the port 3000. So let's access Grafana now. So let's access the Grafana using the IP address and the port 3000. So you can see we are in the Grafana homepage. So the default user and default password you can use, which would be admin, and you can set a new password when it's asked, because since it's first login, it will ask you to set up a new password, so you are logged into that. So now like how Grafana works. So you need to add a data source. So I will go to InfluxDB data source. Okay, and we need to configure the InfluxDB data source here. Okay, for configuration I will use this IP address and the port number for the database URL, right? So that should be the default one, and I'm going to give the database name as Telegraf. Okay, and I think that should be good. I think some issue in the connection. Let me see. So what you need to do is, when you're configuring the Influx, you need to change this to Flux, and also when you come to the InfluxDB details, you need to give a token. Okay, and also the bucket name. It's not mandatory, but you need to give a token. So if you go to your InfluxDB and you go to your members, and not in the members, you go to the data and you go to the tokens. So you have the tokens available. So I will go to the admin token. So I'm going to use that admin token here, but you can create a different token as well. So let's give this here and just save and test. So probably I will give the organization as tips for you. Okay, and now you can see we have found 3 buckets, right? So you need to give the organization name and you need to give the token. So once you give that, you should be able to connect it properly. Okay, so now you can see it is connected, and now we can go to explore. Okay, and let's see what we have. I will go to create some dashboard. Let's go to dashboard, create an empty dashboard. So now, since we are using InfluxDB 2.0, we need to use some flux command. Now I just put a query here. So if you see this query, this is like from bucket, telegraph, and range. So measurement, we are going to measure the CPU and CPU total and some command, right? So now we started seeing some data here. So you can see what are the different kind of options available here if you want to change it. And I will link this tutorial also. This gives you the details on how to write flux command. So you'll have to go to understand the query of InfluxDB with Flux. So based on that, you can write some queries here and you'll start getting the data over here. So once you apply it, you will be able to create the dashboard. So you can see this is the CPU utilization which I'm getting now. So usage user and usage idle. So similar way you can create the graph. So ultimately we want to show it like we have a telegraph running, right? From the telegraph we are getting data into the InfluxDB, which I showed you here itself. Like you can see the data in the InfluxDB itself, right? So that data which we are sending to Grafana, and using Grafana you can create a dashboard using the queries for InfluxDB. So this you can use it for as a monitoring solution. So it's not only you can monitor the system. Alright, we showed you like when we configuring Telegraf, we had create a configuration. We had option like monitor system, Docker, Kubernetes, Nginx, right, Redis. So there are different options you can use it to configure. So if you select all those things, the configuration file will become different. So so there are different ways you can create. So based on that, you can configure your InfluxDB as well. So don't worry. Okay, so I will give the whole each and every step-by-step instruction in my GitHub location, and I will link that into the video description as well. So you can copy and paste those commands, and you should be able to set up this whole structure very easily. Okay, so if you have not subscribed to my channel, I would request you to subscribe to my channel to watch more videos, and I would request you to like and share my videos. So thank you for your support.